This is Stephan from Perpetual Equilibrium. Welcome back to this series of video. So this is video 3, and it's all about now to understand how we can transform our fears, struggles through this pandemic, but not only with this pandemic, okay? That can be actually applied to any areas of life, or whenever there's a rise of psychological distress. How do we apply all this into Gurmat perspective into this context of pandemic? Okay, so what's important to know now is that the context I'm giving you from the beginning of the video will actually help you to understand the value of meditation now, okay? So the meditation process is not just as this meditation as we know nowadays, very commercialized, mindfulness, about relaxing, looking cool dude. No, that is not the aim of this. There's a very strong value of meditation in Gurmat teachings into this context, life context we are living in right now. Okay, so for the last weeks we've been through a lot of fears, struggles, which all of us have this thing in common, is this fear of pandemic. So this now can be applicable to all of us. It's not just for certain people. It's applicable for the common man. Okay. Now, there's talking about ego earlier. This is actually a kind of inventory, understanding now our own psychology. So the first point then, it would be understanding, maybe admitting right now that actually we don't have any control over what's happening. And try to take control would lead us actually to ruminate, to stress every day, to boredom, and that is quite, this is normal because we are self-isolated. For some of us, we are cut off completely from our loved ones. It's difficult, and that stress to a lot of grief, and there's ways to come around this throughout the videos, okay? So admitting that we're not in control, and because the ego wants to try to give you solutions to resolve this this worldwide issue, but especially your own issues, okay? How to get out of this. And that's quite important. So I've introduced how the mind works earlier, a basic way to understand this. Now it's about to try to understand how to slowly shift. So it's a psychological shift towards how to transform the ego. Okay, so admitting that we can control is one of those. 2 is recognize that this pandemic is actually an opportunity. Okay, an opportunity to reconsider our lives, our values, and yet because there's uncertainties. So why not taking this opportunity to allow a rebirth about ourselves. Okay, and first, what we realize actually that the fear and the struggle of that pandemic is because we are faced with something that we try to not admit a lot of times, and it's about death, it's about illness, it's about all these thing that we try to push away in our everyday life. So is in fact health. Health is this common theme that everybody is facing right now. So how do we look at ourselves? So, I'm only going to teach you what I know, and what I know is meditation. With different stages of meditation, we can get you to a healthier stage. And why? Because when we are stressed, when we are constant in a psychological turmoil, unfortunately, when we have this kind of thoughts or feelings, our body reacts the same way as if we were trying to fight a lion, this fight and flight mode. So having this type of thoughts, will create this fight and flight mode, which will trigger the adrenaline to actually prepare us to fight or flight. Unfortunately, because we can really fight, which would be useful then physically, to use this wonderful physical power to fight, long term is actually detrimental to our health. Okay, so the adrenaline, for what I know, becomes cortisol. Cortisol is similar to a sugar, but this sugar is used to give us this energy to fight or fly, but when it's in the body for too long, is no good. Okay, so meditation then has its place to help us to rebalance our mind and body, to switch off this fight and flight process. Okay, so that is one point. So every time we have this rumination, then the fight and flight command, then meditation then will help us to, so through body scan, through breathing techniques, help us to come back to a pretty much normal state, and that is important. So through the Gurmat perspective, we can realize the action of the ego, and once we recognize this process, emotional afflictions, and what it does to our body, the damage that creates in our body, then we can actually use meditation appropriately. Then the third point is that we have a choice. We have a choice to actually live in a psychological turmoil and distress for as long as the pandemic will exist, or so we will get sick at the end, or we take ourselves in charge, back in a sense of control, if you like, through creating our own health and wellness. Okay, and that, I think, is key. Yeah, is to recognize this unhealthy reaction to this pandemic, which we can help because it's conditioned through the ego, to undo this and transform this into a much more healthier way. Okay, so this is your way. This is the attempt to discover yourself. The fourth point would be that there's kind of trying to respond. So through meditation, we're going to learn to respond to this pandemic, to this struggle. So rather than reacting, we're going to respond. Okay, respond rather than reacting almost automatically. This is what the ego does. Okay, So rather than looking for outside, looking for answers from outside, we're gonna just look from within and gain clarity. Gain clarity out of this cloud of rumination, of stress, of thoughts that is polluting our mind all the time. Okay. The fifth point is finding this path or way of life. How Gurmat now is applicable to this context of pandemic we're living in. This is the end of video of part 3 of this series of videos. Now please join me for part 4, which is how to apply meditation from a Gurmat perspective.